This is Jennifer Gonzalez welcoming you to episode 33 of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast. In this episode, I'm going to share 5 powerful ways you can save time as a teacher. One of the main reasons I ended up leaving full-time teaching was time. I was a language arts teacher and I regularly brought home about 2 to 3 hours of work every night. I also spent plenty of time on the weekends going into school, letting myself into those dark hallways and just locking myself in the classroom for hours to try to get caught up for the week. I knew that when it was time for me to start a family, that it was going to be much, much harder to maintain that schedule. And so once we did have kids, I decided to stay home full time. I was lucky enough to get a university job part-time for a couple of years, and now I run a website, and so my schedule is just a lot more flexible. And anytime anybody asks if I plan to go back to full-time teaching, I always have to consider that piece. I mean, first of all, I would definitely have to stop what I'm doing now completely. But I also think, is it even possible to sustain or to maintain that kind of a schedule? With 3 kids, I've got an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old, and I just can't see how I could possibly keep all of those things up. But a lot of teachers do it. A lot of teachers are balancing teaching and a family. Some are caring for aging parents, or they are working another part-time job, or they're going to grad school. There are plenty of teachers who are balancing the demands of teaching with other things. But my real question is, are they really balancing it, or are they just juggling, or are they just cutting a lot of corners and multitasking and sacrificing things like sleep and exercise and their health in order to meet the demands of teaching? And so time, I know, has been an issue for teachers just forever. In surveys that I've done of my readers, pretty much the number one problem they have is just not enough time to do the job well. And I've never had an answer for that, honestly. I can provide great teaching strategies, and I can give you classroom management tips, and I can share fantastic tech tools, but the one problem I've never been able to solve for teachers is the time problem. Now I think I've found something, and I'm really, really excited to share it with you. This is something I truly believe is going to change teachers' lives and give you back the time that you need. It's called the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Club, and it was created by my friend Angela Watson, who is another education blogger, and she's a consultant, and she's written fantastic books. And this is her new project. She's developed this systematic approach to help teachers shave lots of time off of their work week and just get better balance in their lives. So I invited Angela to come on the podcast and share some of her best tips. We decided that instead of just promoting the club, we wanted to really actually kind of pull the veil back and let you see some of the material she gives to her club members. So what we're going to share today are her 5 best, most powerful tips for saving time as a teacher, so that even if you don't end up joining the club, you will still get these. And these 5 are good, and they will make a difference. These are things that have made a difference for me in my own work. And that is not as a teacher. These are really good time-saving tips for anybody, and we all need more time. So this is going to be valuable if you're an administrator, if you're a parent, if you are working in a completely different field. These are just going to be fantastic time-saving tips. Before we get into the tips, I just want to thank you. If you have left a review for this podcast on iTunes, it really, really helps to boost the show's visibility so other people can find it. And so if you're enjoying the show, I would love it if you would take a moment to just go over to iTunes and leave a review. All right, here is my interview with Angela Watson about the 5 powerful ways you can save time as a teacher.
Wait, are we on?
Yeah, sure. Or we can start over again.
Okay, yeah,
all right, let me start over again. So I'm just going to let my own listeners know that we talk probably every day, so we may burst into giggles every once in a while. Angela has become a very close friend of mine, and so I would just like to welcome her. I've been wanting to have her on the podcast for a long time. So Angela, welcome.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
This is Angela Watson. She writes at thecornerstoneforteachers.com. She is an excellent education blogger. She creates educational products. She has written three books.
We're at four now, actually.
Four books. Okay. So they are the Cornerstone for Teachers, right? That is the classroom management book, right?
Yes.
And then you wrote a companion book to that.
So after the Cornerstone, I wrote Awakened, Change Your Mindset to Transform Your Teaching. Then I wrote the devotional guide for Christian educators that goes with Awakened. That's the companion book.
Got it.
And then the most recent one is Unshakable, 20 Ways to Enjoy Teaching Every Day, No Matter What.
Okay. And I have written reviews of two of those books, so I'm already clearly a big fan of your work, and I am an even bigger fan now of this new project that you have going on, which is called the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Club.
Yes.
So if you could please just tell me a little bit about how you came to start this club. What got you to wanting to do this?
So this has been a really big project that has kind of been in the back of my mind for years because I feel like one of the biggest needs that teachers have is a need for more time and more energy. And, how does a teacher achieve work-life balance? Like I don't even know how to wrap my head around a concept that big. So it's something that I've just been researching for many years and just compiling notes on and writing little bits and pieces here. And I wasn't ever really sure what to do with it. And when it was done, or not even really done, but when I looked back at my notes, I saw it was like 250 pages worth of stuff. And I'm like, okay, no one is ever going to sit down and read 250 pages about this. And, there were videos that I wanted to include and audio and printable forms and all kinds of different things to help share the ideas. And I just wasn't sure what kind of format to put it in. So I figured that the best way to do it would be through a club, through a subscription service, so that teachers are getting just a little bit of content every single week and they have support in implementing it. And that way it wouldn't be overwhelming.
Okay. And so the club itself is a 1-year sort of membership. And then from after that year, they just sort of belong to the club for life. But it's just a 1 year that they actually pay for, correct?
That's right. It's a 1-year program. So you can start, there's 3 times a year that you can join, and then you progress through the 12 different months. And every month there's a different focus.
Okay.
So for example, in December, we've been thinking about revamping our homework systems. How do you streamline homework? How do you make it more meaningful for kids? How do you get parents on board with it? How do you make it easier to collect and to grade and to track? So that's what we've been working on this month. And then teachers will implement their new ideas beginning in the new year.
Okay. And you also have, so the information is delivered via email?
Right. So they get a weekly email every single Saturday, and it has information in there, which I call an e-guide. It's like a very short ebook, usually between like 8 and 15 pages of tips and just various resources. There's also editable forms and templates, printables, things like that to make teaching easier. Those come out almost every single week. And then there's also an audio version of it. So if teachers don't want to read through all that, they don't have to. They can just listen to it like they would listen to a podcast. So nice they get that. Yeah, it's a really, really nice feature. It saves a lot of time. So they get that through their email. And then it's also available through the Gumroad app, which is like a digital library app. And it's also placed in Google Drive. So if teachers are in a Google Drive school or they're just really like using Google, then that's a great way to get the resources too.
Okay, great. And you also have a support community. Once somebody joins the club, then they belong to your Facebook community?
Right. So all of the teachers who have subscribed to the club have the option of joining the Facebook community. Some people don't want to be on Facebook, and that's fine. It really is an optional part of it, but it's a great place to get the support from other teachers. That's where you can go and ask questions from me and from other teachers to adapt the ideas to your unique teaching situation.
Okay, fantastic. So I would like to ask you one sort of a devil's advocate question, because I know that you've struggled with this a little bit when you first launched the club, and the club has been going for just a few months now. And when you first started, you got a little bit of pushback from people about the name, the 40-hour club. People were saying, how is that even possible? I don't think a teacher can do a good job in only 40 hours a week. So talk a little bit about the name.
Yeah, the name it's been a struggle for me. I picked it because that's about how many hours that I worked as a teacher. I was in the classroom for 11 years, and I had about 27 hours of instructional time a week. So I devoted about 15 hours a week to meetings, planning, paperwork, all those other kinds of things. And 15 hours is a lot of time if you're focused and you're organized and you know your priorities. So for me, that was a reasonable target number to shoot for each week. And then in the club, I help each individual teacher choose his or her target number that works for that person's teaching context, because 40 isn't the ideal number or a reasonable number for everyone. Okay. The idea really is to figure out how many hours you're currently working and then subtract maybe 3 to 5 hours from that to start. Just being aware of how many hours you're working and creating boundaries around your time is really powerful because it keeps teaching from consuming your entire life.
Yeah, and it totally can, too. It really can consume every waking hour. So how has it been going so far? You've been in about 3 months, so your first batch of people. How have you had any real success stories so far?
I have been blown away. I thought that this was just going to be like kind of a side project, that was just going to be maybe one of the things that I tackled this year. But I'm seeing such great results from the members that I realize it's really is going to be my number one focus for 2016, is really just sewing into these teachers' lives and supporting them, coaching them, mentoring them, because I see how willing they are to change and to look for a better way and to want to innovate. So, you get out of the club what you put into it, basically. And so the more dedicated a teacher is to figuring out how to streamline systems and set priorities and create boundaries, the more they're getting out of it. And I mean, we've had people who were able to cut 10 hours off their work week the very first month.
Wow.
We have people who have said that they no longer take work home on the weekends. They don't work over breaks anymore. And that's solely because they have really invested time into creating better systems for themselves and thinking about, what am I doing now? How can I streamline that? How can I make that time more beneficial for the kids and less time consuming, less energy consuming?
Yeah, I think Angela has actually let me to peek into the materials, into the club on the Facebook group. And I just saw a post the other day from a woman who was talking about how great it was. It was the first time she hadn't brought work home over Thanksgiving break.
Yeah, and that's a powerful story. And I think, I knew that these ideas were going to work, but to see them working, like to hear these kind of testimonials from teachers, in all different parts of the country, all different grade levels, all different teaching contexts, saying, yes, I can take these principles, I can adapt them, and it's making my life better. I have more time to take care of myself. I have more time for my family. This really is the most rewarding project I've ever taken on, because I can't think of anything more valuable to give a teacher than more time for the things that are really important.
Yeah, and that really is the unsolvable problem. And the fact that you're finding ways to solve it is just incredible. That's why I wanted to help you promote this. So, okay, let's look at some of your content. You have agreed to share 5 powerful tips for saving time as a teacher. And this is actually what you start the program with. You start new members with. So we're giving people a nice little sneak peek into some of your content. So you've got 5 things that teachers can do right off the way. And you call these the big 5, correct?
Right.
Okay. So let's just start going into these. The first one is eliminate unintentional breaks. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So the big 5, these are the big overarching strategies for teacher productivity. And these are things that we return back to every single month as we focus on all these different aspects. As we talk about lesson planning, grading, homework, all these different aspects, the big 5 really play into that because they're just basic principles. And that first one, that eliminate unintentional breaks, is something that I think we all have to be super mindful of on a daily basis, because we don't realize how much we tend to get distracted from our work, right? So we'll just, check a text message for a couple minutes, and then we'll get a Facebook notification. And so then now we're on Facebook. Then, we decide, we're going to get a snack. And you look at all these different diversions that you didn't intend to take. You didn't even realize you were taking them. So they tend to consume more time than you think. You don't even know that you need to limit them because you're not even aware that it's happening. And you think, a few minutes here, a few minutes there doesn't matter. But it adds up really quickly. You can easily end up staying at school an extra half hour a day because of these unintentional breaks. So being really mindful of what is distracting you. Are you Checking your personal email while you're at school? Are you chatting with coworkers who are popping into the room all the time? Do you have the TV on maybe for background noise while you're working? All of these things are unintentional breaks. And so it's much more productive to say, okay, I'm going to set aside 5 minutes. This is going to be my downtime and I'm going to decompress and then I'm going to get back to focused work.
So that the corollary to the eliminating of unintentional breaks is to plan intentional breaks and really break when you're breaking.
Exactly. If you want to take a break, you can. Some people just like to work as much as possible and then go home and cut it off. The important thing is not to fool yourself into thinking, that you didn't have a choice but to stay at school until dinner time. It really is your decision whether to stay focused and leave school a half hour, maybe even an hour earlier, if you eliminate these breaks and are just more intentional with how you use your time.
That's fantastic. I think with social media, especially, this first item is probably more important than it was even 10 years ago for people to really be mindful and keep track of it. Does it help to turn off notifications when you're at school?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is one of my biggest struggles, in all of my work is eliminating these distractions. And I feel like all the time I'm constantly working on this myself. I still had email notifications on my phone up until about 2 years ago. So every time an email came through, no matter what I'm doing, all of a sudden now I'm glancing down at my phone screen. And then my brain is mentally processing, do I want to open this? Do I need to respond to this? And it's just such a big distraction. So getting all those notifications off, putting the phone away, will really, really help with focus.
Okay, so that's the first one. Number 2 is figure out the main thing and do it first.
Right. So every day we all have a number of different things on our to-do list. One of the things that I try to teach educators in the club is not to overload your to-do list, to keep it small, and to really schedule out your time really well. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But when you're looking at your time, you can say, okay, before school, I'm going to have maybe an hour before school. So I'm going to give myself these 2 to 3 tasks. And the idea there is that you don't have this massive to-do list, because if you have 25 things on your list, you're going to get overwhelmed. And most importantly, you're not going to prioritize. So you're going to end up doing all the little things that seem easy or that you can just, check off real quick. But then you look at the end of the day and you're like, oh man, I didn't get to the most important thing. So one of the things that we do in the club is every single day, members look at their to-do list and say, okay, what is the main thing? What's the most important thing? If I'm going to leave work today with a sense of accomplishment, what do I have to have done? Maybe it's a pile of tests that have been sitting there for 2 weeks and you haven't graded them. And it just weighs on you every time you see them. That's your main thing. Then you want to get that done first. In the first block of time you have during the day, that is long enough for you to get it done, that's when you want to do it.
That is fantastic. It's up to the person what their main thing is. It may be something that another person needs, but it may just be that thing you've been putting off for so long that it's just stressing you out so much. You'll feel so much better to have it done.
Exactly. It's some sort of either urgent or important or just overwhelmingly large task that creates anxiety if you procrastinate and focus on other work. It's that thing when you're doing one thing that is actually important, but in the back of your mind, you're like, oh man, I still really need to get this done. That's your main thing. Yeah. So you want to do that first, and that just really sets you up for success for the rest of the day, because if you get interrupted and you have all these emergencies come up, at least you know the main thing got done.
Yeah. That is wonderful. That is fantastic. Okay, we're coming up on my favorite now. This has changed a lot of things for me. So number 3 is work ahead by batching and avoid multitasking unless the work is mindless. Let's talk about batching.
So I think multitasking is like one of the biggest lies that we have been brainwashed into believing, that the human brain can do 3 or 4, even just 2 things really well at the same time. And now as we learn more and more about brain research, and just as we see the effects in our own lives of being constantly distracted and constantly trying to do multiple things at one time, we realize the brain really doesn't function like that. You can multitask if it's mindless. You can eat a sandwich while you're, putting stickers on student work, but you can't grade papers and check your email at the same time. Mm-hmm. So every time that we stop grading papers to read an email, we're losing time as our brain tries to register what's happening there. So you're much better off if you can batch similar activities and complete them all together. So check that email once a day, go through and respond to all of them at once. When you're grading papers, don't even start the stack until you know you have enough time to get through. Because otherwise, if you just grade one here, one there, you're going to feel like you're grading papers all day long and you never get finished.
It's such an unsatisfying feeling to have all this stuff kind of hanging halfway done.
It is. And it ends up taking longer anyways, because like if you think about when you're grading like a multiple choice test, by the time you get to like the last few papers in the stack, it goes so quickly because your brain has been trained to remember the pattern of the answers. Like what to look for in the paper.
Yep. Instead of having to restart every time.
Exactly. So you want to get into that flow and batch it. Do the whole stack at once. Don't start it until you know you can get that whole thing done at once. And if you can go ahead and grade a whole stack of, a couple different assignments at one time, that's even better because it just trains your mind to get into that flow and to stick with that one thing. And how good does that feel when you're done and you're like, wow, I actually got something finished today?
Yeah. And you and I have talked about this so much too, outside of just regular work, that you can even do this with life. Because you know that I've struggled with grocery shopping for a long time. And I get into this thing where I'll just go every day and real last minute and just grab a couple of things for that day. And then it's like the next day shows up and I got to get more. And I've been trying to just batch my grocery shopping and just sit down and commit to it, make a list, get everything for the week. And even though I can't stand it, then when I'm done, it's such a reward to me the rest of the week to know I've just got everything I need. It's already there.
Yeah, exactly. I try to do this a lot in my personal life too, because, when you batch, the best thing is you get ahead. Like now, when you go to the grocery store and you get all those groceries, now you're set for the week. And that is such a good feeling. It's so motivating. And then you realize that the next day when you would normally be going to the grocery store, it's like, oh yeah, now look, I have an extra 20 minutes in my day. Now I can batch and get ahead on something else.
Yeah. And what's helping me actually get through the drudgery of doing the batching itself is I tell myself I'm giving myself a gift for later.
I love that.
And I know I'm going to be so grateful to myself later on. I'm going to say, thanks, Jen. Thanks for doing all that grocery shopping. It's done now. So that kind of helps motivate me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done eliminating unintentional breaks, figure out the main thing and do it first, work ahead by batching and avoid multitasking, except for mindless stuff. Number 4 is look for innovative ways to relax any standards that create unnecessary work. So talk about relaxing standards.
So this is about, most teachers are just, we want to do a good job. We know how important this work is. We don't want to cut corners. We want things to be done with excellence. And that's a great trait. But often we create more work for ourselves by making tasks more complicated than they need to be. And we spend time and energy on things that aren't necessary. If you can relax your standards for a task without anyone else realizing that you did it, then your standards are probably too high. So like take lesson planning, for example. Maybe you're spending hours online every single week looking for lesson ideas, and then you're spending more hours recreating and adapting every single thing you found because none of them were exactly what you wanted. But the only thing that's necessary is that you plan and document engaging lessons. And there's thousands of ways to approach that task. Some of them are more time intensive and some are less time intensive. So the idea is to think outside of the box, find a better way. What if you co-plan with a team of teachers and you divide up the work? Or what if you plan for science, someone else plans for social studies? Or what if you find ready-to-use activities on Teachers Pay Teachers and you buy the experience of someone else so that you don't have to create it from scratch? Or you can turn the ownership over to the students and say, this is going to be a student-directed project. I'm not going to plan this. I'm going to give the ownership to kids and let them do it. So there's all different kinds of ways to approach this task of lesson planning. And the end result is the same. You created an engaging lesson that moved kids towards learning goals. But you can relax that unnecessary standard, the standard that you've placed on yourself where I have to create everything from scratch. I have to make, I have to use this perfect font. I have to use this clip art. I have to make everything just so, and really boil it down to what's essential.
Right. I think teachers drive themselves crazy with this, especially with classroom setup at the beginning of the year. And I know that that's your big theme for August, I believe, right? Is just creating a space that's not so overdone, but it's good enough and it's beautiful and it's going to work, but you're not going to spend, a year putting it together.
Exactly.
Okay. So the last one, use scheduling to create boundaries around your time.
Right. So, like we touched on at the beginning, teaching will expand to fill whatever amount of time you allow. So, if you don't have boundaries on your time, you're just going to be working nonstop. You can't really work until it's finished because it's never really done.
Yeah.
There's always something more you should be doing. So, when you plan in advance how long you're going to work and when you're going to work, it creates a sense of urgency, and that makes it easier to stay focused and be productive. And that's something that I've been experimenting with, as you know, myself a lot these last couple of weeks. I've been saying, okay, instead of trying to tackle a task at home, and I've got the TV on, I'm getting up to get snacks, I'm, all these different distractions, and it ends up taking me 4 to 5 hours. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to a coffee shop and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to give myself 2 hours to get this done. I'm not going to check social media. I'm not going to get up and move around. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to focus on this one thing because I've created this boundary around my time. It is amazing how much more I'm getting done.
Yeah.
Just because I've set the limits. And so that's what I'm advising teachers here to do is decide on a schedule. Say, okay, I'm going to go in 2 hours early Tuesday and Thursday. I'll stay, an hour late on Wednesday, Friday. And that's it. That's all I'm doing. And if you have that limit for yourself, you won't be tempted to waste time and you won't be tempted to do all these unnecessary things and, worry about the cutesy. You're going to say, okay, I got to get this stuff done. I got this list. I have these priorities. I'm going to do my main thing and I'm just going to knock this stuff out and go home.
Yeah, I'm seeing actually how this one works with all of the other ones, because if you've decided on a 1.5 hour time period after school, you are not going to take the unintentional breaks as much.
That's right.
You're going to get the main thing done. And yeah, so they really do work all together.
That's right. And the number of hours and how you structure your time, it doesn't matter. That's going to vary for every teacher. And really, it's going to vary from week to week. If you have parent conferences one week, you've got to budget a lot of extra time there. So it's not so much about the hours. It's really about just knowing how much time am I going to dedicate to this job. And then you can feel good when you're done because you're like, okay, I've gotten the main things done. I didn't do everything that I wanted to do, but I worked with focus. I worked with intention. I got the most important things done. And now I have scheduled in time to relax. I've scheduled in time for my family, for my health, and I'm going to stick to that.
And I know that this is really just the tip of the iceberg for the year-long program that I'm sure that you all get into things like probably somebody listening is thinking, yeah, but you don't know my administrator. And so I would assume that gets covered at some point, whether it's in the group or in the Facebook group or in the materials themselves, dealing with unreasonable expectations from other people.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems in teaching, right? Is that a lot of times we don't even get to decide our priorities, right. And we don't get to decide the timing because you think something is going to be due next week and all of a sudden someone needs it by the end of the day. And those kind of emergencies that crop up really can throw you off. So, and you're right, that is where the Facebook group is really helpful because teachers can go in and say, I'm facing this unique challenge. And, when they do that, they often realize, oh, there's a lot of other teachers actually who have faced similar things and can offer help.
So let's talk a little bit about if somebody's listening to this. We're recording this at this time because you are just about to open up enrollment again. And actually, by the time people listen to this, they're going to be listening to this starting on the 26th of December. And so when does enrollment open for this next round of membership?
That's the day, December 26th, and it will be open for 1 week. So it will close on January 3rd. And the purpose of that is because I really want to keep a sense of continuity and a sense of community in the Facebook group. And I also want members to have this shared base of understanding. I want us to all be building on the same types of concepts. So there's 3 times a year that you can join, and this is the last one until the summertime.
Okay. And so the 3 times a year, if somebody happened to come across this, in the summer of 2016, the 3 times of the year are when?
So the next time they can join in the end of December to start in January. The next time it will be open is the end of June to start in July. And that will kind of help you gear up for the new school year. Mm-hmm. And then the final time is at the end of September to begin in October.
Okay, which is the time when teachers all of a sudden realize, oh my gosh, I'm having really big problems with my time.
Exactly.
And yet, no matter what time of year a person joins, they just jump in. Every month has its own focus. So they would just jump in on that month and then do the full year of themes.
Exactly. So
Okay.
it doesn't matter when you join. If you join, any month, any of those 3 times in September, we'll be talking about classroom organization, classroom management, that sort of thing. So the information, therefore, is always timely and it's always relevant to that month.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about cost too. What does it cost for somebody to actually be a member?
So you can pay for it's like we talked about earlier, it's a 1 year program, right? So this is not like a bill that you have for the rest of your life. You can pay the whole thing up front if you want. It's $99 if you pay it up front. It's a one-time fee, and then you're going to get that content every single week for an entire year. And you have access to the Facebook group indefinitely after that. So you will always have that community to rely on. Optionally, you can choose to pay in monthly installments of $9.99.
Got it. Okay. And so anybody listening, if you want more information on this, this is what you do. Just go to cultofpedagogy.com and click on the podcast link. Go to episode 33, and that'll take you straight to all of the different links to take you straight to 40-Hour Workweek Club. So just go to episode 33, and you will find what you need. And also, full disclosure, I am an affiliate of this program. This is the first time I've been an affiliate of a specific program, but I just believe so much in your results, and so I just want to really support it and promote it to as many teachers as possible. So I hope that a lot of people join in January and you get a nice brand new energetic cohort to start the year.
I'm so excited, Jennifer. You have no idea. I can't wait to get this new group in here and just start seeing them get results.
Yeah.
It's so empowering for teachers.
Well, I'm just excited for you. And the thing that's nice about anybody who joins now is that there is going to be this batch of people who have already been doing it for 3 months, and they're probably going to be really excited to welcome this new group of people. Mm-hmm. So there will be people with experience ready to mentor them.
That's right. Yeah, we've already got several hundred teachers in the group who are ready. They know this is coming up. They're inviting their friends, and we're really excited to be welcoming more teachers into our fold.
So if somebody wants to follow you, because this is only a small part of everything you do, where can they find you online?
The best place to go is to my website, which is thecornerstoneforteachers.com. And that's where you can find all the social media links. You can find out about my podcast, which is Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. My blog, my books, all the information is there. So it's thecornerstoneforteachers.com.
Okay, fantastic. And to learn more about the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek Club, just go to cultofpedagogy.com/pod and go to episode 33, and you will find everything you need there. Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing these sort of freebies with us, these free tips. And good luck. Good luck with the club.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Again, for more information on the 40-Hour Teacher Workweek, go to cultofpedagogy.com/pod and click on episode 33. That'll take you to a page with everything you need to know. Thanks for listening, and have a great day. This podcast is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. To learn more, visit edupodcastnetwork.com.